I'm Mark Gagan and you're listening to a special episode of the Voice of Insurance podcast, produced in association with VIPR. Today's episode is all about collaboration. To anyone in the London market, VIPR has become a very well-known technology company, particularly in the area of delegated authority, where its Bordereaux management systems have achieved a critical mass of adoption. But as the business looks to expand globally, particularly in the huge and strategically crucial US market, it needs to partner with existing major players to achieve its goal. Just because we all know that weaning the insurance sector off spreadsheets and other documents is a universal problem, it doesn't necessarily follow that a business like VIPR will automatically gain customers just because it has a solution that has been tried and tested over time. This is where Sikich comes in. As a trusted advisor implementing technological transformation, it's picked VIPR to go to market to help prepare customers for the coming fully digital and AI-enabled age. In this podcast, Rahul, Bhatia, Principal at Sikich, and Tony Russell, Chief Revenue Officer at VIPR, outline this alliance and the huge prize on offer to clients that are able to automate how data, not documents, flow through their business, from their customers, and onto their own suppliers and wider stakeholders. MGAs, particularly US domiciled ones, have ridden a spectacular wave of growth in the past decade. If that is to continue and they are to cement their tech advantage, they need to listen to what Rahul and Tony have to say. We live in exciting, revolutionary times, and today VIPR and Sikich are at the frontier of delivering a lot of the technological change that much of the industry has been dreaming about for decades. So, if you want to know how underwriters can grow without adding to cost, while at the same time becoming more skillful at underwriting and more responsive to client needs and new demand, this podcast is for you. Rahul and Tony are hugely experienced in this field and are relatable, down-to-earth, and easy to talk to. I can highly recommend a listen. Enjoy the podcast.
Rahul and Tony, welcome to the Voice of Insurance.
Thanks. It's great to be here. Having listened to a number of your podcasts, Mark, it's really privileged to be part of that, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Rahul, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a bit about your career to date?
Sure, Mark. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here. So my name is Rahul Bhatia, and I lead the insurance technology practice at Sikich. Spent the better part of my career helping insurers, MGAs, and brokers modernize how they operate, everything from core systems to digital connected experiences. So my background spans both strategic and technical, focused on transformations. So I tend to focus on how we can make innovation practical, scalable, and really focused on business outcomes.
So you're always involved in something where there has to be a big change and it's difficult.
Yeah, it's really focused on transformation for a lot of our clients. So past 10 years, it's really been looking at core processing systems and how do they enable the buzzword digital transformation. But a lot of that has really changed into modernization, and just being part of the industry and part of the ecosystem has been great. We learned a lot across the way, cut our teeth and bloodied our nose all the way through it, but it's been a great experience.
Tony, why don't you take a couple of minutes just to quickly introduce yourself to the listeners as well?
Thanks, Mark. So I've been involved in the London market, particularly for the last 25 years. It's gone by in a flash, and I've seen a lot of changes, as I expect most of your listeners have. The last few years, I've spent really concentrating on the delegated side with a number of organisations now working at VIPR, and specialising really in delivering systems to the delegated stroke program arena, and really trying to sort out this nutty problem of getting data efficiently and effectively into London such that we can expand our reach in the distribution channel.
And Rahul, to anyone who doesn't know Sikich, can you just give us a brief overview of the company and what it does?
Yeah, sure. So Sikich is a global professional services firm, really combining deep industry experience with technology-driven transformations. So in the insurance sector specifically, we support carriers, MGAs, brokers with their digital modernization. We implement core systems for them, analytics, a lot of the compliance needs that they have, and more we're seeing AI and automation sort of the pieces of the puzzle for us. What kind of sets Sikich apart is our ability to bridge both the business side of insurance with modern digital capabilities that our clients are looking for. So especially in the delegated authority space and the E&S space, where there's a lot of complex workflows, there's a lot of legacy systems, sometimes fragmented data. So a lot of these organizations are looking at enhancing those things. So we help to make those ecosystems that they have more connected and more user-friendly.
And you work right across the insurance industry. Is it globally or just in the States?
It's a global footprint. A majority of our clients are from the States, but we are expanding and scaling globally as well.
So the big news for this podcast, perhaps the real reason why we're talking now, is the partnership between VIPR and Sikich. Can you tell us how this partnership came about? It sounds really interesting. Tony, what were you looking for and how did you end up finding Sikich?
Let's give you some numbers. The MGA market is predicted to be around $260 billion this year, and it's growing at 20%. And over half of that is being created in the USA. So it wasn't a really difficult choice for us once we had commanded a leading market share in the London market to look at other territories and consider that we really needed to be present in the USA. We were very fortunate in winning a couple of deals early on, but it became very clear that actually in order to support that growth and to make our approach appealing, we had to have a partner. And we did a little bit of research, we dug around, we took some advice from some other colleagues that I've worked with in the past. And we came across Sikich and we hit it off straight away. I think the key ingredients were we had the same approach to customer care and customer support. So there was no training or evaluation having to be done. We talked the same language, I suppose. And very quickly, we found ourselves aligning in that Sikich, and obviously Rahul will give you his side of the story, were looking for some sort of additional products to add to their portfolio. And we were looking for a very solid, respected partner in the US market. And without a shadow of doubt, as the relationship continues to grow, we're delighted with that decision.
Rahul, what was it from your perspective? Was it because you were looking to broaden some of the products that you were able to endorse, and presumably you'd been coming across VIPR and their product was a very good one?
Yeah, that was definitely part of it. So working with our clients, one of the things that we've been privileged to be known as is trusted advisors to our clients, right? And we've done a lot of those core processing system implementations. But our clients are always looking for what are best of breed solutions that are going to enhance and complement their digital ecosystems, right? So a lot of our clients are not looking at replacing and ripping out their core systems, but they're looking at enhancing it with best of breed solutions. So we've been kind of scouring the market, looking for what those best of breed solutions are. And one of the ones that we found was VIPR's Bordereaux automation tool. So a lot of our clients are looking for compliance reporting and just enhancing their performance. So it sort of made sense for us to look at these solutions where we're really helping to solve our clients' problems outside of just core policy processing. And then meeting Tony and the leadership team, I mean, it really was alignment at first sight. They're great to work with, and it's always been very much on the same page with how we see client success, how we see implementation methodologies. So it really was a good fit for us.
So it's a good partnership because you can trust their product, their solution to say, this is really good, this is best of breed. And at the same time, Tony can say, I'm really glad that I've got Sikich really looking after my customers, because they'd be looking after them just as their own. Scaling up for a business like VIPR in the US would be a very big operation if they weren't in partnership with someone like you. So how's it structured? Are there any goals you've set yourselves also for, say, your first couple of years?
Yeah, sure. I can take that. So first couple of months, our partnership and our positioning was really to just get our ducks in a row and just get the alignment in terms of how we're going to work, start looking at where there's synergies within our organizations. The next 12 months really are about execution and expansion. So we've really built the foundation of a powerful partnership here, which combines VIPR's best-in-class Bordereaux delegated data solutions with, again, Sikich's insurance expertise and our delivery scale. So now we're focused really on helping more US-based MGAs and carriers turn these compliance pain points into performance insights. We're helping scale implementations. We're going to help grow our joint client base. And we're also going to jointly invest in automation and AI use cases that really go beyond just reporting into underwriting support and helping for real-time decision making. So I see a lot of promise and a lot of potential in the next 12 months for our partnership. Really focused on scale, focused on growth, now that we have a lot of those foundational things taken care of.
And for your side, Tony?
I think it's fairly straightforward. I think Rahul and his team specialize, as you said, in the insurance marketplace. They work with a lot of the MGAs who are actually the guys that are delivering the data into London. One of our ambitions and one of our real challenges is to get to the source data as quickly as we possibly can. And what I mean by that really is that if the third-party distributor, the MGA, the cover holder, whatever vehicle is being used, we can actually now integrate into their systems and collect data. And I think where we really can make a seismic shift in this whole process, and we're doing a number of proof of values as we currently speak, where we're integrating into the MGA system, we're collecting the data, and we're collecting all of the submission data, not just the data that comes through on a Bordereaux, but we're collecting all of the submission data. And we're giving people in London an opportunity, and indeed around the world now, because obviously the collection problem is relevant in every country around the world. So we're giving them really early sight of the situation they have with their partnerships, which hitherto hasn't been coming through for probably 3 to 6 months in some instances. So I see the biggest benefit for all of these is collecting data at source, cleaning that data to a standard, and then allowing it to be consumed in downstream systems. And it's really now turning the delegated space into a real business driver.
Wow, that sounds really, really interesting. You'd be able to allow any of those paper providers, wherever they are, to be able to look almost right through to the original data rather than just waiting for the 12 fields they're going to get, or a certain limited number of fields of data that they would be getting it if they were using the old-fashioned Bordereaux. Rahul, you're really close to clients. You're their trusted advisor, effectively almost their broker of information technology. What are the main things they're telling you about? It's interesting when you first spoke about people want to buy these products, they want to use these solutions because of compliance, i.e. because they have to. And then your goal is to make them really want to use them because they're going to give them a much better understanding of their business and become better underwriters and better at their business. So what are the most pressing problems at the moment in terms of, if you had a magic wand, which are the ones you could solve immediately, which would be the most common problem that a client comes to you and says, Rahul, I've got such a headache with this thing. Can you fix it?
It's a great question, and we get a lot of those. And I don't think there's any silver bullet, to be honest. I think it's a combination of different things. And I think, to be honest, shifted in the past few years, right? So what clients were looking for problems to solve a couple of years back have really changed in the past few years. And things like cost and efficiency, they're obviously still important. But today, I feel like the conversation's a lot more about how their data flows. How are they making better decisions and faster decisions, more insightful decisions? And really, how are they connecting their ecosystem and enabling their distribution? These are really the focus areas that a lot of our clients are looking for. And again, like back 5 years ago, 10 years ago, a lot of it was, hey, we're coming into our first core processing system. We're implementing new technology. We sort of have to go through that. But a lot of it now is how do they enhance, enable, and augment what they already have? And that's really been the focus. So one of the biggest pressing issues I think that a lot of the carriers and MGAs have right now that we see is just lack of real-time visibility across their portfolio, especially when it comes to delegated business. Obviously, we're talking about some Bordereaux here. For example, Bordereaux data, it's often locked up in spreadsheets and PDF, and it means underwriting oversight is really an afterthought. Instead of being predictive and proactive and really being able to look at your data and see how you can make better business decisions off of that, they're really just using that data as a compliance reporting tool. So I think that's a big one that we're starting to solve for, is how do we help enable our clients to really unlock the power that's in their data? And again, they have to standardize their data. We're helping them support that and understand, take a step back and really look at your data across your organization so that you can get better insights and use it for things like AI. But really the focus has to be on just unlocking the power that's sitting beneath your fingertips with your data. So that's a big one that we see. Another big one is just obviously workflows and the fragmentation of the workflows through the insurance value chain, right? So everything from submissions to quoting to compliance and reconciliation. I think, again, everyone's kind of chasing automation, but unless your data is standardized and it's integrated appropriately, you're just honestly automating inefficiency. And that's kind of where we're coming in, and where we're helping with our clients is help them redesign those processes, help them modernize really without having to rip everything out and start a new core system. There's a lot of great solutions out there that can complement and enhance their ecosystem. And our big mission and vision is to focus on helping our clients identify those, implement those so that they can modernize their business.
So it sounds like much more kind of a 2.0 vision, isn't it? That you did some of that heavy lifting the last time, but now it's much more trying to make everything be more sophisticated and understand the data that's flowing through those systems in a much more sophisticated way and interrogate it in a more sophisticated way. Tony, the US market is 50% of the whole global market. And in fact, that correlated very well with the numbers you used in Delegated Underwriting Authority business. So what do you think the scale of the opportunity is for VIPR? Obviously, you took a very big market share in the kind of home market of the London market. What do you think the scale of that opportunity is for you guys now?
I think you hit the nail on the head with the word scale. I think this is all about scale. Everything that Rahul just said around making sure that the data's clean, having proper business discussions rather than query loop discussions. What we see in a lot of our clients at the moment is they're talking to their partners, but it's more chasing the bordereaux or correcting a bordereaux or correcting the data because they haven't really met the requirements. I think our biggest key offering is we're looking to automate the mundane and to simplify the complex. And what I mean by that, let's automate the collection of the data and the cleaning of the data to a standard. And then we can start to get to the real business benefit where we can see competitive advantage being gained by reporting on that, giving people real-time data from the source and actually allow them to make business decisions. Just going back to the numbers, I mean, it's considered that $130 billion distribution channel money will be emanated from the US this year. And that means there's somebody out there collecting that. Clearly in London, we're only bringing in around £27.5 billion of that into the London market. So the rest of it is going around the world. It's going into the US, into the carriers, into the insurance companies. So they've all got a challenge. They've all got this collection problem. And I think we sit very sweetly between the delivery of a bordereaux and obviously trying to move towards removing the bordereaux by data transmission in order to give the insurers and the managing agents real clear data indicators about their products, about their distribution channels, about the margins that they're making, and all the things that perhaps currently they're struggling to gain. We're also seeing a number of global partners coming to the table looking to have one instance for the whole of their delegated environment and bringing data in from around the world. And that really is exciting. We've got 2 global projects going on at the moment with significant carriers, and we're basically working with them and with Sikich to actually transform the way they work so they get the best out of that data and they get visibility of that data as quickly as is possible.
That sounds amazing. And yes, of course, it's funny with Bordereaux, isn't it? I mean, it's a bit like the famous Henry Ford quote. He said, if I ask my customers what they want, they'd say they want faster horses. But of course, sure, everyone would like faster Bordereaux. But of course, when we do this properly, of course, you won't need Bordereaux because if you have real-time or near real-time data, you can just look. You don't have to wait until the end of the quarter for a Bordereaux to be sent to you. Compiled, you can just look at whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. That'll be the way that things go. I suppose you have to create a step change in your mind, don't you?
I think you do. I think the key thing is we're not going to get to 100% of data transmission. It's just not going to be possible. There's organizations and they're doing significant business that will always want to provide the data via a report. And we have to cater for all of those different dynamics. If we go out and say we've got one size fits all, then I think we'll be missing a trick. So it's being collaborative with all these organizations, showing them what the art of the possible might be and working with them to transition into something that could make it easier for them. I was talking to an insurer in the US a couple of weeks ago, and still 40% of his submissions are handwritten.
Wow, that is special.
I think that's exactly what we're seeing too. There's a lot of clients and a lot of organizations that flipping it completely on its head sometimes is a very big bite of the apple. But sometimes you want to take some smaller bites of the apple, right? So it's that quarter turn of actually innovating and saying, hey, I'm still working in spreadsheets right now. I'm still so reactive. So how do I take the next step in the innovation process that I need so that I can get better insights and I can get a little bit better, right? So it's instead of taking too big of a leap, sometimes a good strategy is to take a smaller, again, bite and then take that quarter step turn, so that you can really see the benefits of innovation. You can see the benefits of the ROI that you're putting into these solutions. So depending on the client and the organization, sometimes that's a better approach too.
Sometimes, yes, actually slightly faster horses are okay. And also, if that's what the customer is wedded to, then I suppose you do need to listen to that customer. It's also been the failing of many a technologist, particularly working in insurance, is to come and say, I've got the answer and you have to come to me. Whereas they've got to see the way that people do the business and the way that people work and they want to work. Again, there's no point trying to get people to completely throw everything out. You've got to evolve as well. So Tony, what's the lowest hanging fruit when someone installs InTrial and gets it to start working with their business?
The data collection is a really big part of the process, because if we can capture the data as early as we can in the cycle, then we've got it under our control and we can track it and we can make sure that we're working correctly with our partners. So we've got a number of capabilities within the system. We have an outward-facing client portal, but we've also just introduced technology that allows us, as I said, to take data directly from the system of the partner, the distribution channel. What happens then is we really take that data and we map it and we validate it. And we validate it against a number of different things. We validate it against the original contract. We also validate it against the terms and conditions that are contained within that contract. And we also standardize that data to a standard. So, for example, in London, we use the Lloyd's 5.2 reporting standard. So any Bordereaux coming from anywhere in the world that we want to bring into a London managing agent, we will standardize into a 5.2 standard. That gives the managing agent downstream a real advantage in terms of being able to report, and they get real clarity about the way that his products are working. We have a number of different standards in the system. We have the ER 3001 property standard by Accord, and our system is also flexible enough to develop homegrown standards if we're working outside of the London and perhaps the US market. So in Asia Pacific, for example, people are looking to have their own standard data target models, and we're able to accommodate that. And we also specialize in not having any pre-processing before the Bordereaux is seen. So the ingestion part of the exercise, which a lot of organizations can do, they've got AI and we're using parts of AI. We'll come on to that, I guess. But essentially, we're taking that Bordereaux and we're putting it through a fairly sophisticated mapping tool, which will allow us to standardize that data. So we really don't want to get to a situation where anyone has to do any pre-cleansing of that data. Once it's in the system, then we turn it into transactional data, single currency for our reporting suite down at the back end, which is where I really believe most of our clients are getting their competitive advantage, because they're very quickly able to interpret the data, what's coming through, seeing some variances, seeing some challenges, and they're able to have, as I said before, some real business discussions with their partners rather than the, where's the Bordereaux? It's not complete. We've seen situations where claims have come in before Bordereaux have even been processed. The managing agents had to go back to the MGA and say, are there sprinklers in the building? Because they need to validate, because they never really processed the Bordereaux in the first place. We've seen some horror stories, but we're seeing a real appetite, I think, in the market to engage now and use technology where it's relevant and really make use of what we are able to do. As I say, the technology is here. The mindset needs slight adjusting, but in order to scale and to grab your percentage of the growth in the market, you absolutely cannot do without automating some of these areas.
It's difficult to compare apples with pears, isn't it? That effectively what you're offering is something that's so much higher quality at the end. But in simple terms, do you ever go out and sell yourselves on the basis of the kind of cost savings and productivity gains you can get out of numbers of people you need to process that data?
That's a great point. I think our commercial model is predicated on the volumes that you put through the system. So that means it appeals to some of the smaller guys as well as the bigger guys, because they pay a commercial approach that sort of caters for all of that. I think the key thing that we're talking to people about is, I haven't met one managing agent, I haven't met one insurance company in the last 12 months that have told me they want to decrease in size. Each and every one wants to increase their delegated programs, and they're all looking to do it with the same number of people. They don't want to keep throwing arms and legs at this problem, which in some instances they have to. If they take on a new managing agent, a new product, then obviously they need to take another team to do the job. So automation is saving that. And we're priding ourselves on a number of organizations that we work with who are now increased their volumes exponentially. And some of our larger users are bringing significant tens to hundreds of thousands of Bordereaux through per annum. And they're processing with the same team that started out, where they were perhaps only on half that number. So we're seeing a real increase in accuracy, performance, and therefore margin.
We've already mentioned this, but do you think at the way the industry's stacked up at the moment, obviously, if I talk to any CEO in the industry, they'll be telling me that they're experimenting with AI, that they're using AI in, I don't know, 10 or 12 different use cases. Most of them tend to be administrative at the moment. Very few of them are risk selection ones, but they tend to be the low-hanging fruit in terms of processing and perhaps triaging and other things, and ingestion of broker submissions, that kind of thing. Do you think without the sort of solutions that you've got here, do you think they're really going to be able to get very far? Because if they're not running things on really, really trustworthy data, do you think any of those AI implementations are really going to be that useful?
Again, that's a great question. We're asked it continuously. I think there's an appetite in the London market to consider what AI can bring to the party. I definitely think it's here. I definitely think it's a thing. I don't think it's going to go away. User cases are really interesting, and we've seen some really great user cases in the claims section where they're summarizing the data on a call with a claimant such that they can get the information quicker so they're not on hold for so long. We ourselves are doing some work in the ingestion space where we're throwing new Bordereaux that we haven't seen before at the AI engine, and we're getting some really, really exciting results in terms of accuracy of mapping. And obviously the reporting areas where we're looking at it. But I think overall, we're looking for real business impact in the use of it rather than just using it and saying we are. There is also a sort of a steer from the London market saying, look, we want to check and validate if it's got AI in it, that our data isn't being used to train someone else. And obviously, if you're a significant managing agent in the London market and your data is being compromised by another one who look at things slightly different, then you are going to train it to be a little bit misguided. And I think there's a challenge there. Our CEO recently had a session with Google, and their summary of where we are regarding AI is we've moved from wow to how. And I think that's a really smart way of actually looking at it, because we're now looking at the relevant business or user cases for where it can really give benefit to the business.
And Rahul, where are you seeing the best use cases? Because obviously you've got a really broad spectrum.
So some of the bigger use cases that we're seeing are really around enhancing and augmenting operations, and then also some in the underwriting intelligence space. So in underwriting, AI is able to help with the performance of your binder or your program, things like flagging anomalies, recommending pricing adjustments based on historical loss patterns. These have been some really big areas that we've seen. On the operations side, as Tony mentioned, a lot of it's triaging submissions. He also mentioned automating Bordereaux reconciliations, just making sure your data is all organized and reconciled. Like, there's been some good use cases there as well. On the agent-facing side, we're seeing chatbots a lot, which pose a little bit of, not an issue, but it's something that folks are really starting to try to understand that chatbots are really going to be what they're going to use going forward. I think the AI technology is changing in chatbots, and they're making them a lot more productive. But right now, there's definitely some fine-tuning and some governance that's required for those chatbots. Look, I think the big thing is everybody's trying to figure out if AI is this magic wand out there, right? And the reality is it's not. So the first thing that we help our clients with is understanding that they need clean, structured data, and they really need to define their clear use cases internally. So that's number one. When you have a foundation in place of clean, structured data, then you can really see productivity gains. You can understand how to support the decision making, and you get some real measurable benefits from AI. But until you have your house in order, until you have your data in order, I think a lot of what people are trying to figure out from AI is not going to be the outcomes that they're looking for.
And what about in terms of your own uses, Tony? You mentioned some of them there, because within your own product, you can be using AI to make your own solutions better.
Yeah, and we're making it switchable, so it's a choice. So there may be some areas where people will use it for some of the mapping capabilities. I mean, again, having experienced some of the Bordereaux that do come in from some of the managing agents, it's going to be a very clever piece of AI to work out some of the hieroglyphics we see in the column headers, but that's another story. But I think as we build up experience with people, we have a pretty sophisticated engine suggesting the mapping as it is. But AI definitely does start building experience. It starts to do aliases. It starts to do some clever work in terms of looking at it and making suggestions. And we're getting high 90% fits. So we're throwing Bordereaux at it now that it's never seen before, and it's mapping pretty much 95% of that document. So that's quite exciting. And where that will gain or give us an advantage is implementation then becomes a bit shorter. We can actually expedite it. We can bring on new customers quite quickly, all of the sort of things that the market's looking for in terms of keeping costs down. And I think the final thing there is that this is a people game. We often, I think, forget that people are involved in this. We've heard the phrase, there's a human in the loop. I think it's a little bit more than that. We've got all this technology. We've had the technology for a long time. A lot of it is mindset. We go into organizations and we talk to them and ask them questions about how they're doing certain things. We do a fairly intense discovery phase when we're putting a system in to make sure that we just don't get them to the same place that they already are quicker. And that would be foolish. And we say, well, why do you do it that way? And it's kind of like, well, we've always done it that way. And I think, as I said at the beginning, DA has certainly been in the past perhaps underinvested in because it's been a side of a desk thing. As I said, people looking to grow it. It's now come of age. There is investment available, but people are really important. And we look after our people. We expose them to everything that's going on. We have regular monthly meetings telling them some of the stories that have happened out in the field. We take them out to the field because at the end of the day, they've got to understand what's happening in order to be able to reply, to enhance, to encourage people to work with us to get the best out of the system, because the IT really is only part of the solution.
I suppose, Tony, would you say the other real core part of this partnership is the human side, isn't it? It's because Sikich is providing the human factor for VIPR's solution, but in another country, in a very large market where you don't have that many employees.
It's the same model as we're talking about. We are delegating our brand to them. And as I said, one of the things I really like, I haven't met one person in Sikich organization that hasn't got the same values and the same understanding and care about their client. And that hasn't happened often, I'm being really honest, in terms of partners I've worked with in the past. There is a real desire to go that extra mile. There's a real desire to understand some of the real benefits of the system so they can pass that on. We're constantly having meetings about anecdotal situations about, so we saw this happen and this was the result, just so that we can tell a story. This is what it's all about. Yes, we are providing a service. Yes, it's a serious part of our business. But I think we've got to be approachable. We've got to humanize this process as well as automate it. And I think that blend is something that's giving us a little bit of a market edge.
On that, Rahul, do you think AI agents would ever get to the stage where they'd be replacing the jobs of human underwriters?
You know what? To be honest, no, I don't think so. I'd argue that AI is going to help amplify underwriters, but it's never going to take their job. If you look at great underwriters, they don't just rate risk. They're understanding nuance. They're understanding the market conditions, distribution dynamics. AI is really good at pattern matching. It can analyze historical data. It can flag your outliers, make predictions. So it's definitely going to help in certain areas like that. But it still lacks judgment. It doesn't have negotiation skill. It doesn't have that handshake that you can have with a relationship that you're building. Those are all things that are vital in insurance, especially in commercial and specialty lines. So I think those are things that you'll never be able to replace with humans. In fact, I think it'll be a more human-focused and human-centric industry, but leveraging technology and AI to really help support and help augment what it's doing. So I think what we're really going to see is a redefinition of what an underwriter's role is. AI is going to help underwriters definitely with like repetitive tasks, data heavy tasks, but that's going to allow underwriters to focus on strategic decision making. Again, building those relationships and steering their portfolio on where that needs to go. So to be honest, I don't think AI is going to replace. I think the biggest thing is those who are going to use and leverage AI are probably going to outperform those who aren't using AI.
So it sounds like being enhanced and much more productive and having something backing you up to make sure you know that you've got the price right and everything else, but actually negotiating a deal is very, very different. That's one thing, that AI isn't going to have any biases and it doesn't have emotions. But at the same time, humans do, but the best underwriters, of course, are quite good at taming those emotions and also knowing that the buyer may be in a different frame of mind. If, for example, if a large hurricane's just come through somewhere, then the emotional sense of the buyer is that there is a recency bias on the part of that buyer, that they'll be expecting more hurricanes to come through. And so they'll be more willing to buy insurance. And a good underwriter may understand that that is a good opportunity to be out selling hurricane insurance.
Yeah.
And probably slightly higher price than last year as well. And the AI won't be able to get any of that.
I think, Mark, where AI comes in addition is a lot of our organizations that we work with are siloed. They'll have different systems. They might have that through acquisition, all sorts of reasons. And I think where AI can really help accelerate is collecting data from multiple systems and presenting it quickly to the underwriter is something that up until now has been very, very difficult and possibly not undertaken just because of the size of the task. Nobody likes going into multiple systems. We've all got single sign-on. We've all got the capability of security now protecting us, and we sign in once in the morning and whatever time in the afternoon, evening that you sign off you go. But I think AI there is serving a real purpose where it's collecting data from multiple sets. And we've seen the arrival of the workbench as a concept. And I think that's where we're now seeing the delegated market move to, where they're collecting all of the delegated business from around the world, because hitherto that's been very siloed as well.
Seems like a really good point there, Rahul. Do you think that's one of the really big value adds, because we are in such a siloed business? And of course, so many of the new products, the new innovative insurance products of the future seem to be very cross-class. If you look at carbon credits or something like that, that's a big combination of political risk, credit risk, and some property risk, and even some kind of agricultural risk and all sorts of things. And again, very difficult for a traditional siloed underwriting entity to be able to spin up a product. But I suppose if something like AI is able to, again, interrogate all those different things, it might be able to add a lot of value. Do you agree with Tony in terms of it being one of the things where you can really straddle all the different systems?
100%. I think Tony nailed it. I mean, just the interconnectivity of systems, the siloedness of systems right now, and being able to leverage technology in general, AI being part of it, to unify those systems or unify the data collection of those systems is key right now. And us, to be honest, at Sikich, our role as a system integrator is really to help focus our clients on how do they get the unification from all of their systems. And we all know in insurance companies, there's a lot of instances of different lines of business running on different technologies, on different systems. So how can you really get all the aggregate data and the unification of that? And that's one of the key use cases where technology is really helping, is building and creating a connected ecosystem using technology, and AI is going to be not even the future, it's the present.
Rahul and Tony, I think we've had a really good discussion. We've come to the end of all things we wanted to talk about. But if anyone's listening, they want to get in touch, what's the best way of getting in touch with both of you?
Well, I think if they're in London, they just lean out the window and shout, and we're here, because we're obviously part of the London. No, seriously, I think obviously our website, we've got in excess now of 50 customers using it. So go and check out what they're doing, check out why they're doing it, check out some of the benefits. We are starting to introduce our brand through Sikich and also other channels in the US. We've already got clients in Europe. We're talking to some of our clients in the UK who have got divisions in other territories, which is great because that helps the growth. So yeah, look, VIPR is a pretty well-known name in the London market. It's becoming a well-known brand in America. We even got nominated for an award in the American market, and that's got to be the first sign that people are starting to talk about us, which was a great achievement from the team just recently out of New York. So we're here to listen. We're here to help. We don't know all the answers. We do have strategic C-suite sessions where the market get together or our customers get together and talk about how we can make changes in the market in the non-competitive side. So data collection and data cleansing, we don't consider to be necessarily a competitive advantage. So we have a number of C-suite members on that panel that are now advising, guiding of what they see the next steps in the market to be. So that's really, really good feedback for us. And that's going into our product and beyond.
I'm Rahul.
Anybody can look me up on LinkedIn, just Rahul Bhatia. My email address is rahul.bhatia@sikich.com. And obviously we have our website at www.sikich.com. Otherwise, anybody in insurance knows that we're approaching a conference run. So the fall conference run, we'll be doing plenty of conferences.
We'll see you everywhere.
We'll see our booth and see us everywhere. So happy to have conversations with everybody and love to connect and keep in touch with everyone.
Well, I'll make sure I have all the right links in the notes accompanying the podcast. So it only remains for me to thank both of you, Tony and Rahul. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, don't forget to subscribe or leave a like or a review or recommendation on whatever podcast platform you used to access this program. These really help get the word out. Before we go, just a quick reminder that advertising slots are available here and in other places in the Voice of Insurance podcasts. Podcasting is the fastest growing medium and attracts a high quality audience of key decision makers. It's also an intimate medium where you, the listener, are right in the room with me and the interview subjects. Needless to say, that means it's a great way of getting your message out directly to an audience because you know you've got their full attention. It's also very cost effective. So get in touch with Mark at thevoiceofinsurance.com to find out how you could be speaking directly to the industry. Voice of Insurance is produced by me, Mark Gagan. Music was written by Anna Gagan and produced by Carlos Gagan. Check out more podcasts and written comment pieces at www.thevoiceofinsurance.com.